Very, very good morning to everyone tuning in, to everyone listening in as well. It is your girl Sarah right here on the Sunrise, and it is the 2nd of July. So I'm very, very excited to be here on this Friday morning. You know what that means. It's Friday, and the weekend is just a day away, and I'm so excited for that. I think everyone is. Regardless of whether you're stuck in quarantine, regardless of whether you're stuck at home, everyone is still excited for the weekend. And I think it's because we get to sort of chill, we get to sort of relax from all the work we've had to do in the past 5 days. So obviously, that's why everyone actually looks forward to the weekend. Now, like I said, we have a lot of interesting things coming your way. I actually have a lot of interesting things coming your way. We will be talking about the pandemic brain, okay? And the reason why we're actually talking about the pandemic brain, the reason why we're going to focus on the pandemic brain is actually because a lot of us are feeling the effects of the pandemic brain, right? So, because we're all feeling the effects of the pandemic brain, because we are all going through that, I thought, it would be amazing if we could just have a conversation about it. It would be amazing if we could talk about what we are all feeling, because even though everyone, even though there is a common amount of symptoms, even though there are common signs in everybody, it is in fact a spectrum of symptoms, right? Which means that different people feel different things. And obviously that is why you should, and that is why we should be talking about this. So you can actually, be a part of this conversation. You can actually tell me if you're feeling anything, and you can also tell me if you've been experiencing any of these symptoms of pandemic brain as well. So like I said, that's what we'll be talking about. But also, before I head into that conversation, if you have any questions, if you have any thoughts, any opinions that you want to share with me, well, make sure you text me on 078 You can find the number on the banner if you didn't hear me say it. But you can ask me any question that you want on the number. Make sure you text me as well, okay? Because I would absolutely love to hear from you. I would love to know what your thoughts are on this, and I would love to know your opinion and your experiences as well. So make sure you do that, because, like I said, I'm super, super excited to be here because I have a lot of interesting content to talk to you about. So, actually, before I get into the conversation, let me remind you that you can follow us on our socials, which is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. You can watch our live streams on Facebook as well, and it's going to be really, really interesting. So definitely make sure that you're part of the show as well. And also make sure to download our app, which is available on both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. And that way, you can make sure that you can listen to us from any device, anywhere in the world. Okay, that's the best part about Relax Radio, is that you can listen to us from anywhere in the world, any part of the world, at any time of the day, because we're always happening. It's 24/7. It's 24/7 right here on Relax Radio. So make sure you download the app. Make sure you're a part of the conversation, so you can be informed. You can be engaged. You can engage in this conversation, and you can also be updated about everything that is happening. Right. But let's actually get into the conversation. We'll talk about pandemic brain. Right now, to actually get into pandemic brain, to actually get into what pandemic brain is, in the weeks and the months after the initial lockdown, people actually began to notice a sudden inability to focus. And this was, to focus, to remember things, and follow through on tasks. And I know I'm not the only one who's been going through that. I know you've been going through that as well, and it's completely fine, because it's actually a very common symptom of something that is referred to as pandemic brain. Okay, now I know that sounds like, it's almost like just because of the pandemic, or we're trying to find, other things, other diseases, other symptoms, if I or other conditions, if I put it that way, that have a link to the pandemic. And it just looks like, we just want to find something else that, in addition to the pandemic. But the truth is, a lot of changes, we've been going through a lot of changes, right? And when we're going through a lot of changes, what that means is that we ourselves, our bodies itself, actually adjust to these changes, right? Now, I know I have to talk about pandemic brain, because in a lot of the people who have gone through COVID, who have contracted the disease, of course, and also people who've had to social distance themselves, isolate themselves, all of these people, and I'm talking about everyone in general, actually, we've all had to make these changes, we've all had to we've all had to sort of understand or feel some differences in our brains. And according to some research that was done, they've actually found out that when it comes to the matter in your brain, the gray matter and whatnot, there have been huge changes in your brain because of how isolated and socially distanced we have been in the past 1.5 years. So obviously, because of that, because there is this new research about what is commonly referred to as the pandemic brain. um, it's very important that we talk about this. So, in case you do have pandemic brain, in case you're feeling the effects of pandemic brain, you know what to do, and how to get your concentration back. Okay, because obviously, it's been very hard to concentrate during the past few months. It's been very hard to focus on what we're doing as well. And the truth is, we're all distracted. But here are some ways in which you can fix it as well. So, getting back to pandemic brain, now, like I said, it's very common. We've all experienced it. And you and I both know that we have been very, very distracted, even when it comes to doing simple tasks. Sometimes things like folding your laundry, or, say you have to, put your laundry to wash or whatever. And say, even if you're trying to upload an article, or you're trying to find a recipe, then all these times when you're trying to do very, very simple tasks, what actually happens is you're on your phone. And because we all do things on our phone, right? So because we're doing these other things on our phone as well, we tend to get distracted, right? Because I can tell you, even yesterday, when I was trying to do some research for my education, when I was doing some academic research, I was on my phone, and obviously I got distracted. And I have to tell you, I got distracted for like 15 to 20 minutes. And look, I know when it comes to distraction, when it comes to the phone, that thing that has always existed. Like, we're all addicted to our phones. Like, we cannot live without it, right? Because all our information is there, everything we do, all our details, everything is in our phone. And it's honestly very scary. It's very scary how much of dependence we have on the phone, right? So obviously, because of that, we all depend on our phones a lot. And like I said, when I was doing my work, I actually got very, very distracted. And I know I'm not the only one, and I've seen a lot of people get distracted while doing their work, or whatever tasks they have to do as well. So obviously, distraction is something that happens to all of us. But if anything, it has in fact increased these past few months, because we're already, sort of going through this crisis. We're going through this whole different process. So because of that, we've been distracted even more than usual. Now, when it comes to the vaccination rates in the United States, United Kingdom, and even everywhere else in the world, that has actually resulted in in a sort of an invitation for us, right? Because with the vaccination drive happening, with all of these countries being vaccinating their populations and whatnot, it means that it's actually giving us more and more of a chance to go out and socialize. And for some of us who haven't gone out and socialized in a long, long time, this is something very exciting, right? So for some people, unlike hot girl summer, it's more like hot wax summer, because we're all vaccinated and now we want to go out and hang out. But for some other people, recovering from the pandemic is actually dealing with the lingering sluggishness of pandemic cognition, right? Because like I said, our brains have been affected in different ways. Thought processes, our actions, our day-to-day routines have actually, all of them have changed, right? So because they've all changed, we've all had to sort of make these changes. And believe me, it's actually very, very hard trying to focus. It's very hard trying to concentrate in the middle of a pandemic, right? So obviously, when it comes to all this distraction, when it comes to the fact that we haven't been able to pay attention the same way we used to, we have this one question in our mind, right? And that question is, will we ever be able to concentrate again? Now, if we're going to be talking about this phenomena called the pandemic brain, we will be talking about it. But before I get into that, we have all these questions. We've been so distracted. And the thing is, we've spent so many months in isolation that it has become a habit now, right? And it's very hard to break these habits that you have. So obviously, when it comes to this, we have this question of whether we'll ever be able to get rid of the pandemic brain, whether we'll be able to focus and concentrate again, and actually get rid of all these distractions, get rid of all this, sluggishness that we have been feeling because of the pandemic. And the good news is our brains are extremely, they're very flexible, to put it that way. We're capable of repairing, we're capable of adapting, we're capable of not necessarily evolving, but you know what I mean, right? Our brains can actually change, and that is how, I mean, that's obviously how human civilization has survived for so long, right? It's the fact that our brains can adapt to change, that we ourselves can adapt to change and make the changes that we need to make, right? So obviously the good news in that is the fact that because our brains are extremely adaptive, we can actually make all those changes we need to make. But definitely it's going to take some time, because it's your brain after all, right? It's not some machine. It's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to get rid of the pandemic brain overnight. Obviously it's going to take some time, but the thing is, what's important is that we have a positive attitude, that we're in fact very, we're in fact very motivated about the fact that we can get back to normal, that our brains will eventually function the way it used to. And what's important is we ourselves can in fact help the process along the way, right? Which is doing certain things, which I will get into in a few more minutes. I don't want to spoil it all for you right now. What's the point, right? I want you to stay here and listen to this whole conversation, because that's definitely going to help you understand. It's also definitely going to give you a lot of different tips, to it's going to give you a lot of different tips to actually adjust to and even use, especially if you're trying to get over pandemic brain, if you're trying to get over all these different, traumatizing things we have been facing in the past few months, if I put it that way, right? So make sure you stay tuned, because I'm actually going to head into a small break right now, but after that I will be back to talk about the pandemic. I will be back to talk about how we can get rid of the pandemic brain as well, so make sure you stay tuned.
The valuations that you place on an asset are always behind you. It's always in hindsight. It's never in front of you. And that's one of the challenges, right? Because you're always valuing what happened yesterday, and what you need is what's going to happen tomorrow. What am I saving or investing for? Why am I doing it? When will I need the money? And how much money do I need? Yeah. So that's quite important, because when you're looking at the valuations that you place on an asset are always behind you. It's always in hindsight. It's never in front of you. And that's one of the challenges, right? Because you're always valuing what happened yesterday, and what you need is what's going to happen tomorrow. What am I saving or investing for? Why am I doing it? When will I need the money? And how much money do I need? Yeah. So that's quite important, because when you're looking at your net worth, you got to start with saying, well, what do I want my net worth to be, so that there's a goal, and then work backwards. How do I get there? And if I can start with £50 or $50 a week, if I save that every week, and you can go online and use calculators online. I don't have to teach you the maths behind it, but you can say, okay, and if I get a 3% return and I put this away for how long will it take to reach my goal? And that's called just this basic cash flow projection calculations. And it's what we use in financial planning all the time. What we say to clients is, we say, okay, what is your goal? What is your objective? Where do you want to go to? And we discuss that in a lot of detail and over most of the meeting. And then the rest of it is saying, okay,